Welcome to Flip Your Lid with Kim Honeycutt. Kim is a psychotherapist and executive director of ICU Talks, a mental health speaking ministry. This is a podcast about how to flip your lid and learning how to reconnect to who you really are.
Well, hi, everybody. Thank you for listening to another episode of Flip Your Lid. I got a new best friend, everybody. Her name is Noelle Toscano, and she is from Wilmington, Delaware. Thought I was going to say North Carolina. Nope, folks. She's from Delaware, and she's director of a nonprofit organization called Ezer Rising, and she's a badass. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Yes, we cuss on this podcast. We do. It's real life, people. So, Noelle, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's really good to have you here. I know you got so much going on. You're super busy, and you're taking time out to hang out with us. So thank you for that. So we're going to get into what Ezer Rising is, for those who don't know, and we're going to get to kind of check in about some things. But let's just start where we always start, the only prearranged, preset question, which is talk to us a little bit about what happened in your life that flipped your lid, and what measures did you have to take to reconnect to who God says you are?
Well, I mean, I would say there's been a few things that have flipped my lid in my lifetime. But I think the biggest thing probably happened about 6 years ago. I started to, I guess I can back up. I grew up in a pastor's home. So my dad was a Baptist pastor, mom, the pastor's wife, very dutiful. This is in the 80s. And both of my parents were first generation Christians. And so they had grown up in what they would call broken homes. There was addiction. And they really felt like, the answer to, our future is faith. And so they were very, very passionate about their faith, and they raised us kids. There was 4 of us kids in it was very, very intense. And a lot, I just remember as a child being very afraid of hell and afraid of demons and afraid of Satan. And, and I looked around and I just felt like all these people are going to hell unless I tell them, and as a 5 or 6 or 7 year old, it's a lot of pressure. I was witnessing to my little kindergarten friends. And I went on to Bible college and graduated with a bachelor's degree in religious education in 2002. And I married a very devoted Christian Baptist man named Chad in 2002. And as I started to really kind of come into adulthood, because I was married when I was 22, I had a job working for a nonprofit, a pregnancy center. And I started to kind of recognize that so much of my faith was dictated by the family that I grew up in, the college that was providing my education, the church family that I felt like was surrounding me, that loved me. And it wasn't until, so I started to really thrive in one particular Southern Baptist church. And I had 2 of my kids, and I started writing, and I wrote a book, and the book ended up getting published, which was very surprising to me. I wrote it as a curriculum for middle school girls on how to kind of walk through your Christian life with your parents, with dating, with, your friends, and just everything I probably would have needed as a 14, 15-year-old girl. And I got to do a speaking tour, and I thrived. I had no fear in front of people. Yeah. And I was like, what do I do with this? I didn't recognize that I had those gifts and those abilities, because the faith system that I had grown up in really said that those were the kinds of things that men were supposed to be like. And so I was teaching women's ministries at the church, and I kept feeling like it's a part of my personality is an INFJ. And so I view people as far as like their potential is concerned. I see the good in everybody, the strength in everybody. I just want everybody to, walk in that fullness and just go be the person that they're supposed to be and thrive. And I found that in teaching women's ministries, I was not able to be myself and do that, because I was supposed to, under the umbrella of that theological teaching, teach women to be submitters and to be women who elevated their husbands and responded to their husband's authority. And really, they were not going to be the initiators. They were never going to be elders. They were never going to be pastors. They were never going to preach a sermon. And they were really never going to minister to men. that there wasn't ever going to be a place and space where men got to learn from women, the wisdom of women and what women were learning. And once I saw that, I was like, it was like the ball just rolled and rolled and rolled down the hill. And I realized at this church, in this church setting, I'm never going to see those things. My children are never going to see those things. My husband's never going to experience those things. And then I started even digging more into like the theological basis for how this has really been a tool of suppression for women since the beginning. Yeah. And that was when the lid got flipped. And I was like, what am I supposed to do now? Like everything that I did in my life was built and founded on this. Right. This was my identity in Christ, was that I was supposed to be this woman, this quiet woman, this submissive woman, this dutiful woman, this servanty woman. And all of a sudden I'm like, but my voice says I'm supposed to lead and initiate, and I've got the ideas, and the Enneagram 8 says I'm supposed to challenge, challenge people. And I couldn't be who I was. And I lasted 5 more years at that church before my soul slowly started to die. And the friendships that I made, I wasn't able to tell them all. I mean, I tried to tell them all the things that I saw for them. This sort of almost like, I know you know what I'm talking about, that prophetic ability when you see the beauty and the potential in people, you want to push them towards it. I felt like I wasn't supposed to be doing that. So I felt like I was doing something that was going to disappoint the leaders and pastors that I wanted, that I respected, and I wanted their respect. And I wanted, also to all be in this body of believers together. And I recognized that it just wasn't for me anymore.
Yeah.
So I had to go. I had to leave. And I was in church since diapers.
Right.
And I was like, what am I supposed to do now? This was my identity.
Yeah, completely.
And that was like during the time that like social media really started to become something where people were interacting with each other more. It wasn't just like, blah, blah, blah. I really enjoy hot fudge sundaes. It was more just like, here's how I feel about this political issue or theological issue or environmental issue. Whatever it was, people were finding their people in groups. And that's how I found Ezer Rising. So they were brand new. They had just started. They were talking about all these women's stuff that I was interested in. And I started really like learning. I read every book I could get on both sides, complementarian and egalitarian sides of it, and really started to become very, very convinced that there was a better way to do this, that you could still believe the Bible, you could still love God. And I think that you could be more of a Christ follower if you were to prioritize equality within the genders and allow different people to just be who they are. Yeah. And to amplify that. So that, I mean, I started kind of commenting on a lot of their stuff. And before I knew it, the director of it, Sierra White, asked me to join the content creator team. So I started doing some of that. I was terrible at graphics, but I was pretty good with words. And then like a few years later, she ended up promoting me to co-director, and then she moved on in her life. So now I've been the director of that for about 2 years. So we have nonprofit status. About a year ago, that was like officially official. So what we do is we bring in voices, and we are a rotation. So there's always new voices rising up, and we want to hear from everybody. Different races, different, LGBTQ. We want to hear from men. We want to hear about people, and the main issues that we talk about are equality, equity, and intersectionality. So just trying to figure out, like, our goal is always to figure out, how do you reach out into the margins and bring people and go, this is, people, there's so many people who have so much to say, and they had 98 friends, and they need to keep their circle small as for protective measures. Sure. We give them a platform of 15,000, or more, to be able to say, here's a support system. Here's some like-minded people. Wow. Here's some voices that are, some people who are going to listen to your voice and appreciate what you have to say. And then sometimes, we are controversial. We don't mind swearing. Yeah. And so we're a little bit edgy. But what's interesting about it is that if somebody on our staff ends up sort of discouraged because they wrote something that got a different kind of response or whatever, we come alongside them and we support them and we encourage them. So it's this supportive system, this networking of different, believers that have come together in order to try to amplify individual voices towards a common goal.
Yeah.
So I love what I get to do because I get to do the thing that was done for me beautifully by the previous Ezer Rising team. And now this sort of new generation is rising up and starting to talk about new things. And I feel a little like in their dust because they're so good. So a big part of what I do is just to try to bring out the best in them.
Well, I love that. And first let's talk about the fact that you're an Enneagram 8, which is the best Enneagram number out there. I'm not biased at all. But no, really, I can feel your power, and it's like a beautiful aggression. And I think it's important to call it aggression because we're told we're not allowed to be aggressive, right? Or if we do something small, assertive, then that makes it aggressive. But I'm saying it's like a Christ-centered aggressiveness that you have, and I can feel your passion when you're sharing about it. And how many people that, because of your fantastic organization, are getting to have a voice. It's so much a part of why I started ICU Talks, because people weren't allowed to have a voice.
Yep.
Right? And so you're doing that. And I want to read a little bit of what Shell's mission statement. This is part of what is on Facebook. And it's all of it is so powerful. Like I really just I even want to post it on my Facebook page just so people can see. Just like my new church watershed, the things they have as their mission statement and all this. Like it's words you don't get to see put together. It's people you don't get to see put together. Right? And so y'all have done a beautiful job. I just want to read one small portion. All of it's worthy. But we believe all people, regardless of gender or sexual identity, are capable of changing the world as co-heirs in Christ, children of God partnering together to advance the kingdom. We believe all people are of equal importance, value, and position in the kingdom of God. Now, if that were a completely true statement for all of us, then it wouldn't excite me so much. And I know you are working so hard to make that true. So that when people read that, it's not fresh. This is fresh information. This is not what's happening. Right? Because there's too many churches like what you shared about that you were in that tells you that you're allowed to come to this far. And outside of that, you're going to disrupt a system that's very beneficial for certain people.
Yep.
And just really the internal fortitude it takes to walk away from a church where people look up to you and see you, and you can stay right there and be regarded, but it's not enough because there was some message in there telling you that you weren't enough. You weren't good enough for a higher plane, for a higher stage, correct?
Yeah, I think that was a big piece of it. I started to find that there was different things that I wanted to see happen at that church, different types of ministries I wanted to be a part of or spearhead. And I was really, the door just kept getting kind of slammed in my face. And I saw the men around me be able to kind of start things, and they got all this backing and all this support. And I was really told by the pastor, you really kind of need to find something that's already been established and roll with that. That's kind of that's your role in all this. And it was just very dismissive, I guess. And, there was other things too. Like, I don't know. I started to really believe that women can be pastors and that women are called to pastoral roles. And I started to look at the way that the church structure has been, kind of created and established and fortified, and recognize that it's not the Church of Acts at all. And I'm not saying we have to be the Church of Acts. I just think we need to stop lying to ourselves and saying that the Bible talks to us about what church is supposed to look like and be like based on example. It's not true. Right. And like you had said when we were talking, I think before, recording, we're always changing and always evolving and always growing. And we should always be doing that. And I think the Church of God is exactly the same. We have to look at what's going on and saying, this whole system that was built in a way that valued hierarchy and said that this hierarchy, those at the top are responsible. Most of the time, they're not capable of not abusing their power because they're humans. There's always some kind of abuse that happens, be financial or a spiritual abuse or whatever it's founded in our own sin and selfishness. You have to have different people on equal playing field and with a system of checks and balances so that doesn't happen. Because there was a time in my life I thought maybe I'll be a pastor, and I started going to seminary and I'm like, I can see it. And then I was like, I can't see it because I don't know what that person looks like. I know what my dad looked like as a pastor.
Right.
I know that what that was like. I know the different kinds of pastors that I've respected and been under. And the truth is that none of them are like me.
Yeah.
And the truth is that I don't want to be like them.
Right.
So, it's one of those things where you ask the question, God, what are you doing right now?
Yeah. Because
everything is upside down.
Everything is upside down.
Yep.
Yeah.
And COVID did that too. COVID put us all in our, made it okay for people to not go. And then, and then everybody went, wait a minute, maybe I don't need that in order to grow. Maybe that was my safety net that made me feel like I had a relationship with God. And maybe I need to, break that down, that dependence that I have on feeling like all the boxes are checked because I showed up and I paid my tithe and I served and I read my Bible and I did my little prayer in the morning and I went about my day patting myself on the back for being a good Christian. When in reality, I think that God, that divine, has been put out there and we get our lifetime to go searching for it. Right. And the only way that we search for it is by just recognizing everything we don't know and saying, I got to stand on grace right now and just say, I did everything that I could today to find something that was real versus something that was man-made, or trying to find somebody to follow so I could read what they wrote, or, take somebody else's advice. Like, no, they're faking it too. Everybody, there's this whole, when it comes to my faith, I had explained this to you a little bit beforehand, but I'm just very I don't have a church right now. And that's very strange for me. And I'm forcing myself to sit in that space because I know it would be very easy for me to go back. I know how to play the role. I know how to be accepted. I know how to let people get excited about me showing up because they know I could do things. I know how to be liked. I know how that can fan my own self-worth. And I know that it has nothing to do with God. And I'm looking for God. Yeah. So you had asked the question, the second part of flipping the lid. I don't know. I'm working on it.
Yeah. But the beauty of all that, because it's that sense of reconnecting yourself, and you still can be of service to other people through your authentic vulnerability that you're sharing with us. And that, just to think, 2 years ago, if you said you weren't in a church, people start slowly backing away. It's contagious, something's going to happen. In COVID, first when people allowed people to have family time, read different books, still pursue, but also we're starting to get an understanding of the system. So how would you explain, how did we get here where overall the pastor becomes an idol? Things I think people go into church, especially those with an abused background, the church becoming a second parenting. They were still looking for approval, were still looking. And so they're being talked down to, and because some things are very shaming and demeaning and preachy, and it causes emotional aggression that puts people in a position that they're already new first in life and allows people to think works is going to get them. It's an earning mentality. Yeah. It's going to get them to a place of love. And so we're breaking free from that. Can you talk a little bit about how we got to where we are, and what do you think's next for your mission statement to be even more true than you're already making it?
Okay. I think that, when I love history. I love looking at the past and go, why did that happen? Why did that happen the way that it happened? Because I think the more we learn why it happened that way, the more we can prevent, we can break those cycles. So when I think about what I had explained, where I came from, being, this evangelical Christian in a Southern Baptist background in my childhood, it was very fear-based. It was developing from childhood people who were terrified, very, very dependent on the leaders to guide them. Yeah. And that leadership gave those people this sense of control and self that probably started out in a very good place where they were just we got the Bible, we're going to put them all in a bubble, everybody's going to be protected. Because if you think about it, in the 80s, like my parents' generation, they lived through, they saw, their parents saw presidential assassination. Their parents saw the Vietnam War. Their parents saw, civil rights movement. Their parents were traumatized what was happening on TV every day. The generation before that didn't have all that access. So now they're looking at it going, our world's gone crazy. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And in their own fear, they said, I just have to trust God. And I think that started out such a good thing. And then I think that it morphed into this. If we don't make sure that we're all like scared to death on the edge of our streets, making sure that we're doing all the right stuff, then we're all going to go to hell. We're going to send our children to hell. And what ended up happening, what was born out of that was just an entire theological movement that was based on fear tactics. And it made us hate ourselves.
Yeah.
It made us feel like I'm the object of God's wrath. Thank you for Jesus, which is nice to tack on at the end. But I think when you tack it on the end, what ends up happening is it doesn't necessarily sink in. And it's one thing to go, I'm a lost sheep. It's another thing to say, I'm a despised sheep.
Right.
And so I think that message got morphed in there, and it was sort of only by the grace of God are we worthy of any of it. And all your works are like dirty period pads, which was told to me when I was a kid. All the good stuff you do is as good as a dirty period pad. And I'm like, geez, that's pretty gross. Like you're trying to like get this shock out of me that if I do good things, but I don't necessarily attribute it to God, every little thing in that moment, that there was shame. So it's good, then shame, good, then shame, good, then shame. There was no place of, I am a child of God. I am God's beloved child. And it wasn't until I started having kids of my own, and I looked at them and I was like, oh, no. I would never, ever, ever try to make you feel that way. I would never think that was a good thing, that you would view me as this teacher who hurts you so that you can learn. I would never want you to feel like you're responsible for my anger when you're just a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's so good. And everything you said just gave me that visual of something that, I didn't grow up in the church, but I remember early on as an adult in the church hearing about I love, I think it's Luke 14:15 where there, you leave the 99 to go for the one that walks away. And that back in the day, the shepherd would get the one sheep and break its leg so it wouldn't ever run away again. Well, that made sense to me because I was abused, right? And so once I did a lot more trauma work, that doesn't make sense to me anymore. Why a shepherd would say, so that you'll stay close to me, I'll hurt you.
Right.
But so many of us are hurt. We don't question that. We don't ask anything. And so this idea that God is a punishing God, and the only way to stay in his favor is to do certain things. If you have certain thoughts or certain actions, then you just caused something else bad to happen in your life.
Right.
That is what's been laid in front of us, and especially people who've been abused or they've heard it all their lives. We don't ask the right questions. We don't ask any questions.
Right. That's a major thing is being so afraid that if you ask questions, it'll be viewed as a lack of faith.
Yes. That
is sin.
Yes.
And so you just buy what they say, hook, line, and sinker, but without realizing that you're putting your faith in them and not in God.
Right.
And I just think that if God is who God says God is,
yes,
then it's going to look different than that. Yeah. That we get our life to pursue what is real, a real, actual relationship with the God who made us and guides and directs our path. And we should ask those hard questions, which is, why do the bad things happen? And you know what, and how should I feel about this? Because I think the answer for me, out of all this, you had asked the question, where do we go from here? I always think the answer is more love, like just more love for people, more love for people. It'll come together. It'll come together. The rotten fruit of theology that has put its entire structure within a hierarchy that says certain people are more supposed to be in charge because God ordained that, has resulted in so much abusive behavior that way has resulted in a total lack of love. You can see it. There's a lack of love for immigrants, a lack of love for, people of different races, a lack of love for the Black community, a lack of love for LGBTQ. It's just love, love, love. It's all stripped away. And they feel like they have this responsibility for people to fall in line. And when you fall in line, it's always conveniently under them.
Yes.
And what they think you should do and their authority. And they embrace those who look, talk, and walk exactly like them. And you're in the club. And we have to set all these other people in line.
Yeah.
And it's just, once you start to look back and see how, it's actually really embarrassing, I think, for the evangelical church today, right now, because so many people are walking away. They're just like, I want no part of this hypocrisy. And so one of our taglines for Ezer Rising is rebuilding the church through the lens of women.
Yeah.
And the idea and the concept there is not edging men out. It's what it's saying is it's been built through the lens of men. And this is what we have been left with.
Yes.
And it's time for the other voice to come in and unify, not take over, unify and work together and say women have had a lot to offer and they haven't been able to. And that has resulted in a lot of the things that we've seen. Particularly for the Southern Baptists, those pastors had no idea what to do in situations of domestic violence and abuse and sexual abuse in marriages. And they went ahead and told wives to stay with their husbands because God hates divorce.
That's right.
And a lot of those wives ended up murdered. It was like to look back and go, these pastors aren't trained in such a way to handle these situations. Well, why aren't they? Because they're coming from a standpoint where women are supposed to be playing a role in marriages, and that role is to be under him.
Right.
And that took away her voice. And not only does it take away a woman's voice and opportunity to actively participate in a way that makes her thrive, it elevates many, many, many men's egos. And they think that it's their job and their role to be the decision maker, the initiator. They get to say who's doing what. They call themselves a spiritual head. They say crazy things like they're responsible before God for the state of their family. And I'm like, show me the verse.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
Right.
But that's a great way for you to go ahead and put a crown on your head and act as though you're some kind of prince and she was made for your glory.
Right.
And that does not, the result of it, once I really, really took a step back and looked at it, I went, you know what, we're all supposed to be participating in this. Yeah. We're all supposed to spend our lives figuring out who is God in me? What am I here to do? I want to help you. Do you want to help me? Yeah. Because that's when it works.
Yeah, that's right. So there's two paths to go on that. And I want to go on both. Well, there's 1,000. I'm gonna call it two because it's all so good and I appreciate what you're sharing. One is I truly believe some of the scripture that has been misused, misinterpreted, and everything's just an interpretation, right? It's just an interpretation. So so someone having a different interpretation does not make them less godly or more godly. Just say that. This idea that I must die to self in order to be loved, right? In one of my favorite scriptures, John 3:30, that I must decrease so that he can increase. So part of why I love that, but my understanding of that is I have to decrease every lie that tells me I'm not worthy of God's love. And so his love and grace and mercy becomes bigger in me. My essence becomes bigger, who he sent his son for, who God sent his son for, died for, be resurrected. If you want to look at it that way, that those parts of me are to be resurrected, and that is the death and the new life. Not the idea that I should have less needs, less of a voice, and less choice, because that is a definition of trauma. So you put someone in a traumatized state so that the other people are allowed to take up more space. So you got somebody very small, the women, right? Because I've had a handful of men in 20 years of me being a psychotherapist tell me that they worry that they are selfish. I've had 95% of women I've worked with tell me that they think they're selfish because they're even in therapy, or they think about themselves for a moment, or they're tired of being a mom, or they don't want to cook that night, or they want to be on the stage and preach, but that they think it's all selfish. So we know there is a system not just in the church, but in so many other ways. There's teaching us that men don't hear this story over and over again, that they aren't told to play small, but we are.
Right. So for women, for men, for women, it's selfish, but for men, it's admirable. It's taking initiative. It's leadership. So that double standard goes, how is it in men this more godly, admirable characteristic, but for women, it's a sinful,
right?
And it's the idea, it's been used as a tactic against women since the beginning, because women don't want to be perceived that way. I remember being a kid, and I just remember like my dad, he would call women who were protesting feminazis, and he'd get that furrow in his brow, feminazis. And I was like, in my mind, I'm looking at their signs, and it's like, oh, they want equal pay.
Right.
I don't know why what that has to do with Nazi Germany and the Holocaust, but as a kid, that was very much so. It was stigmatized. Feminism was, and it's such a shame, because I get that there's women out there who they're bullies, and they're just kind of like, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and I'm gonna, and everybody needs to bow to me because I'm the queen. I'm not into that. I think that, like you said, like we all need to analyze what it means to die to self. And it doesn't mean that we die to, like you said, like the lies that are coming in at us all the time. We have to kill those things, those things that are going to try to make us shrink. We don't need to take up all the oxygen in the room. Right. That's like a big thing. I've been in that room where somebody else just totally takes it over. Sometimes it's a welcome thing if ice needs to be broken. But sometimes it's like, wait a minute, at the end of the day, was everybody heard? And I think that's important. That's not happening in church settings. And I think that a lot of women are conditioned to feel as though nobody wants to hear what they say, and what they have to say is not of value. Right. So what happens to them?
Yeah.
I always imagine like they become a shell. They just become this service. I serve my children. I serve their school. I serve the church in the nursery. I serve my husband, and then their whole heart isn't in it. They might feel like, okay, I mean, I'm just going to say this because I watched another one of your things, so I think I can. How many husbands out there want to have obligation sex with their wives? Probably not. Yeah. They'd really prefer if their wives wanted to connect with them. Okay. You want to know how to connect with your wife? Listen to her, value what she has to say. Show her that you care about her. You connect with her on that level. She will want to connect with you on a level, that is very mutual and meets both of your needs. That's very vulnerable. So coming together in those ways, that emotional bond that is, it translates into the physical. And what about the moms who try so hard to be a good, loving parent, but there's no authenticity in it? When that kid, my son, my 6-year-old said to my husband, Daddy, do people go to hell? And my husband pulled up a chair and he was like, all right, let's talk about this. And he starts to sort of give him the gospel. But in my mind, I'm going, he's 6, he's in kindergarten. Yeah. And I think that I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I'll fix it later. but my husband gives him the 6-year-old, it's probably more appropriate for a 10, 11 or 12-year-old version. And at the end of it, my 6-year-old just went, Daddy, that sounds really fake. Wow. Which was hilarious to me in the moment. You know what? I think as a parent, we give our kids the pat answers, and they don't see a genuine vulnerability within their parents. So why would they ever open up to parents who don't open up to them? Why would they ever feel safe to parents who are guarded and a shell of a person and always giving this Christianese spiritual answer that they're supposed to give? I think it's got to be okay to say, I'm not sure about that one. Yeah. Or this was my personal experience with it. And I kind of hold on to this idea because I like it, but you've got to make your own decisions.
Yeah. Well, and part of what you're saying that's so profound is about secure attachment. So if we have secure attachment to ourselves, to God within, to spouse, Secure attachment means that you can take risks. It means that it's okay to mess up because you'll say you're sorry, that you'll regulate experiences with each other.
Right.
And so when you have that and someone says, hey, I think I want to study Buddhism, you go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me know what you learn. Right? Like it's because my window of tolerance for religion is very large because I know what I believe and I know there's room for me to listen to other people, and I will only shift if I decide to shift. Like, you're not going to force me, right? Like, if you say, I used to be taught, like, if someone said Reiki in front of me, I should start praying immediately for that spirit entered me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's, again, if we're so faith-based and God is so big, we should have so much fear. Right? And so, but I think part of it too is that most women are raised to have a preoccupied attachment, which means we are to be preoccupied with what someone else is experiencing, thinking, and seeing. And our effort goes into them not feeling rejected, hoping we won't be rejected, even though we reject ourselves constantly in that. Most men, passed down generationally, are raised avoidant attachment, which means they don't show up emotionally. They're task-driven. And so they will sell in a church. They will sell in a corporation. They won't really be present for you as a husband or father because again, it's generational. People do what's passed down, right, most of the time. That keeps the dynamics in the church exactly where they are.
Yeah. And so I think that, to be honest, I think that our generation has figured out some pretty profound things that we're teaching the younger generation.
Yeah.
And they're going to be even better than us.
Yeah.
And I think that I have a lot of hope because I'm raising 4 little feminists who view themselves as LGBTQ allies, and their beloved grandma who lives next door is gay, and they love her, and they don't think anything of it. And that is so different from what I grew up with. And so there's this part of me and piece of me that's like, I'm sure they're going to have a whole other slew of reasons they need therapy in adulthood, but it's not going to be that, So I think that, that what you're sort of talking about, the differences in culture, the way that, the men were raised, that's shifting so quickly. I'm so thankful for the millennial generation because I just think they're just so kind, to each other. And they sort of they're hungry for the information. They want to, I didn't know anything about the rest of the world. When I was in my early 20s, I was very much so in my tiny little bubble. And I was very happy to go to Africa and tell them all how to go to heaven, and I realizing that like they probably had a deeper, richer relationship with God than I ever could. So, I think that by honoring different cultures and honoring different people that are different than us, we come together. And I think that, us being able to really see, and this is so hard right now because I was taught as a child that your emotions will lie to you. Don't trust them. You're definitely on your way to Satan. If you start to have a feeling, you should never say, I feel in a sentence. Yeah. I know, you know what I'm talking about. Your feelings will deceive you and they're from your father, the liar of hell, Satan.
Right.
And just to be able to go ahead and be like, you know what? My feelings keep me on track. My feelings are based on my thoughts. My thoughts are based on the experiences that I've had and the information that I'm taking in around me. It's based on how I've embraced other people and their situation in their lives. And the more I see other people, the more I see God's image in them, and them being so different than me, I can appreciate and honor them through that. And then I could go looking for God in me. And that's okay. I was always taught that if you do that, you're like going to become prideful. And the truth is that until we have self-love, we can't actually love God. We're made in God's image and likeness. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. We are beloved. We are gifted. I am an identical twin, but there's nobody else in the world like me.
Right.
There's nobody else in the world like you. And somehow you and I end up on different parts of the country, talking on a screen together, having this amazing connection because that's God in us allowing us to do that. That's the unseen. That's what says, do I believe in God or not? Yes, I do, because of that. Yeah. And then how do I take that and then share it? How does the next generation that's coming up take a structure that has been built like Babel to the sky so that we can look good and say, you know what, we have to change our language, and we have to look at it and go, I care about you over here. I'm gonna do everything I can to connect with you because I see God in you. Do you see God in me?
Right.
Because if you see God in me, you will see that I love you and God loves you. And as long as I'm here, you're not alone.
Right.
And as long as you're here, I know that I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And that's our role.
Yeah.
That's as far as I can extend it right now, because, you know, I don't know what the future looks like. If I was in a gathering of people that started to, you know, somebody grabbed the guitar and started singing a song, I would sing my heart out. You know, I would want to worship God in that setting, but I don't want to walk in a building with a steeple and everybody is dressed up and a pastor gets up in his button down and starts telling the people everything that they want to hear. You know, to me, I'm like, give me something real. I need something real. And not to say that that's not real, but it's not real to me right now.
Yeah.
I'm looking for something else.
Yeah.
So I haven't found it yet.
Yeah. And you know, it's so important. You know, our brains, or God made our brains to look for safety. And part of safety is finding a place you can regulate your experiences, your past experiences, your current experiences. And so what takes us out of that is a threat. And a threat of judgment, a threat of rejection is huge wherever you go. It's called neuroception. We're always looking for cues for safety, threat, and danger. Right? It's part of our connection. Like we were able just to know we're a match, right? We're picking up, we're safe with each other. I have permission to be myself. I'm not hiding any part of my life. And so people are walking into a church, and you and I both can understand why they are believing what they're believing. Can very much understand that. But if that's the level of safety, and that safety means if you're not in this bubble, then you're not allowed to be part of it. You're not worthy of experiencing God. Then you get a whole lot of people who will never find what all of us are saying that we have that we want to offer.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not, when we're saying it's free, and we're giving it a very high price to tell somebody they have to look and act a certain way, or they're not allowed to be in the club.
And that's what's been lost, and that's what needs to change. And I think as individuals, we'll try to figure that out, you know, along the way. I feel so good about feeling like a part of that conversation and getting to be, you know, a voice that tries to help people. There's one more thing I had wanted to talk to you about that I didn't warn you that I wanted to talk about, but I think it'll be right up your alley if that's okay.
Please,
Because I did read your book, but I want to talk about alcohol.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've ever talked much about it on your podcast. Have you?
I speak all over about my alcoholism. So I have no idea when and where I've talked about it because I talk about it so much. So I'm not really sure. But I'm very open about. I've been sober for 26 years. I'm very open about it. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about it too because so recently in my life, I decided I didn't want alcohol to be a part of my life anymore.
Yeah, that's good.
And it wasn't anything I ever grew up with. It was very stigmatized. Like in my life, my parents really looked down on anybody who even would have a beer at a barbecue, and they would say that's a stumbling block for alcoholics or whatever. But they both had alcoholic parents, so I understand. They grew up, you know. My dad used to say that he would listen to his dad walk up the stairs, and if he was stumbling up the stairs, he knew it was going to be a horrible night, and he would go hide in his room. Yeah. So I never, you know, touched it, and I always thought it was just the gateway to bad things. But it wasn't until I started to really kind of feel like in adulthood, like I'm an adult, I can do what I want, you know. And I would you drink wine with friends and get that little fuzzy, happy-go-lucky feeling. And then it really, what happened to me was, and I'm telling you this because I think there might be somebody out there. I have not talked about it to anybody other than my therapist, that I started to become emotionally dependent on alcohol during the evening hours. My kids were in bed. My husband was winding down for the night, and my whole brain would swim with anxiety and fear. Are we all going to die of COVID? Or, you know, what am I going to do because I lost my job because of COVID? And, you know, what, like all the things, and they're not irrational fears. They were very rational fears I could not cope with.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to notice this pattern in my life where I would wake up feeling sick because I drank too much the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And my heart would race, and I would have a level, and my anxiety would go up, and I would start to just feel, the hangover feelings, and it would just make me really, really grumpy, and it would kind of amplify those negative feelings. And it started real small, it was like, not like, I don't think that we all have things that we're addicted to, but I would be, if I felt crappy, I would be like, what do I want on Amazon? That kind of thing. Or I just really want to eat something, but it was never like, I am getting so depressed that I need to black out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that I hid from everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody knew. And I knew how to hide the alcohol, like around, so my husband wouldn't know how much I drank, and like, just, this is me,
yeah.
I was like, what is this? And I know that there's more people out there that are like me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd wake up with this feeling of existential dread. What did I say? Who did I text? What did I post? Like this feeling, because what would happen to me is I would drink one drink and I'd start to feel a little bit better. And then I would drink the second drink and I would get the dopamine hit. And I would be like, I finally feel good. For the first time in 24 hours, I feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And it would last about 45 minutes. And then it would tank. The dopamine would tank.
Yeah.
And I would start to feel belligerent or sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just feel like I needed to say something mean, or I would just cry. And it was the same thing. And the automatic thought, the addiction in it is, if you drink more, it'll make the anger go away or the sadness go away, but it never does. It just makes it worse.
Yeah.
So I fell into that. I mean, and I really struggled with it very silently for almost a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then I read This Naked Mind, which is by Annie Green. And she talks about, she had a very, very similar path. And she talks a lot about just how, like, it was like poison for her. Like it was this thing that she would always drink 2 bottles of wine every night. And she thought, it's red wine. It's fancy, which is expensive, first of all, but she lost her personality. She lost her light, her friends the next day would be like, where are you? And she challenged people to look at things like the commercials on TV. They tell you need alcohol to have fun. You need it to be this lighter version of yourself. You need alcohol to be able to have sex and be romantic. And you need to, you need. It's trying to make you feel deficient. And then, and I started to look at all those things. And she really challenges you in the book. She said, go ahead, have a drink. Go do it. And then tell me how you feel tomorrow. Chapter 4. How do you feel today? What dumb thing did you do? What did you say? How do you feel about that? Wouldn't you really rather wake up every morning with hope? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you really love to imagine the potential of this day?
Yeah.
Go to bed early.
Yeah.
Take a melatonin, get a little exercise, go for a walk. Your life is so much better without this. And I just have to say it is. Yeah. Like it is. So I read your book. Mm-hmm.
What's the name of my book? What was the name of my book? I can't remember.
But Your Mother Loves You.
Oh, By Your Mother Loves You on Amazon. That book. Yes, go get it, everybody. Go right now.
It's great.
Well, thank you for that. Let's slowly unpack some of that, because there's so many nuggets in what you just said. So I just kind of want to piggyback on that. And part of that is all of us understanding that. So when I got sober, first of all, they had to convince me that American Medical Association declared a disease in the 1950s based on certain criteria. My biggest fear, and so is Noelle's, is being weak. Mm-hmm. Right? If you're Enneagram 8, that's our biggest thing we fight against, is I don't want anybody to think I'm weak. And so to me, having a disease, not be able to handle alcohol, I couldn't take that on. It took me a long time to understand scientifically what it was, and then to study neuroscience, because I'm a neuro nerd, to understand what was happening with my brain. And I say this on purpose for 2 things. One, to know that when people generally are in community and truly connected and safe in community, the likelihood of alcohol becoming more important, or dependence, or some type of drug becoming more of a dependence, decreases drastically. So when COVID happened, that was a threat for a lot of people. One, because of domestic violence, intimacy, personal violence that happens within a home. The concern automatically for me was like, how do people get to meetings? And doing a Zoom meeting especially when you're first sober, is not the same. It is a threat to your sobriety, because it is about the we of the program and community. So what you're being vulnerable about and saying is so true. People who all of a sudden had community, had a place to go for a job, and were more than just people that were half their size, their children, were allowed to have internal intimacy and interpersonal relationships. And that is why, for so many people, alcohol or forms of eating disorders or other things became more prevalent for people, is because community was not there, which means there's no connection. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing you said that I even thought about earlier, you were saying, so I love that you said that, was, that commercials are set up, marketing set up is for you to be deficient. And so if you have, and a lot of that goes into what we talked about earlier about your attachment style, if you have this idea that you are defective in some way and you have a strong critical voice inside coming against you, it will tag in, that commercial tags into that critical voice, and you think, oh, so your hope becomes in the next degree, the next book, the next diet, whatever it is, instead of the hope being in getting closer to who you actually are.
Right.
And it sounds like you've really done the work to figure out who you are. You don't have to have it completely today, but it's about you saying, this is who I am today. It's in changing the internal script. Who I am today is enough. What I did today is enough.
That's the main thing, is to go, okay, I haven't arrived, and I don't know if I ever will feel like that I have, and maybe I'm not supposed to.
Yeah.
But I'm choosing a different way to do this. And that is bringing me a lot of truth and a lot of just authentic living. I am no longer trying to be the person that I think everybody else wants me to be. And I'm learning that when I'm the person that I am more loved and more appreciated, and I have more fun, and I have better conversations. And because what that does is it frees other people to be their authentic selves. And I think that, we spend our lives trying to figure out, what makes us feel good. Oh, it makes you feel good when somebody says, oh my gosh, you're so skinny, and you're like, you're 12 or 13 years old, and you're like, why does that make me feel so good about myself that I'm in like a single digit number pants or whatever. Right. And then the day comes when you're in a double digit number pants and you look fine and everybody in your life loves you and nobody cares. Right. But it's this, you became this number that validated you when you were 12 or 13 or 14 has now invalidated you, when you're 25, 26, 27, and how to let go of those, those things, and to say, I'm just living. I'm living. I'm living my life. And I look around and I go, I've got this house and I've got these kids and these people and these are my friends. And what is the instinct to grasp for more? What is that? Because that needs to be shut down. Because the grasping for more is different than growing.
Yeah, that's a great distinction, grasping for more versus growing. Because really what's missing, everybody, is self. And that's part of why Ezer Rising and so much of what Noelle's doing and Megan's doing and other people within Ezer Rising, I know you're working so hard to do, is because without a sense of self, we always look for something externally to fix the inside.
Right.
And so that's why, at the age of 5, this is the only smart thing I've ever said, Noelle, but at the age of 5, I asked my mom what I had to do to be equal to my dad and brother. I saw the differences when we were in public of how they got received compared to how I was talked to and how I got received. And so I became very aware of language. Just telling y'all, mankind, policemen, firemen, when you think doctor to this day, you still instantly think male. You hear pilot, you think male. All of those things are exclusive and tell women that we're not allowed to take up a whole lot of space. And so when we do it too, just remember when you're saying like, hey guys, you're actually only talking to men and you're saying it to women. So y'all please be aware of that. I'm not telling you to stop, but occupational segregation is alive. Walk into a church and you already have an idea There's only so far you can go in something. And that, for me, is not God's word.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the complete purpose, the complete thing that's happening. And so even, Noelle, what you're saying is like, hey, we're not trying to take over men. Well, I think part of the reason we have to say that is because it's a threat to them to think that we're trying to do anything.
Right.
Because they took over.
Right.
Right? And we're not trying to model ourselves after them, but it is an idea of, like, even people I know who work so hard talking about race, because think about it, until certain years, probably 1970s, when people started actually seeing Black people on screen in a leading role, right? So, like, people grow up not seeing themselves on TV. People grow up not seeing themselves in magazines. All these things, that is part of the exclusion that causes us to play small, and that affects our mental health more than most of us will ever realize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a big part of what we want to do with Ezer Rising is to, dispel a lot of those things, not only to amplify new voices that are kind of coming through, but to expose other people to those, those ideas and those thoughts and things that will empower them and enrich their lives and help them to feel more confident, to be able to go out into the world, to be who they are. You've got something amazing to offer. And there's going to be all these things telling you that you're not worthy of it or make you feel afraid, and learning how to let go of those things. Yeah. So, I think that I always think of life as a road. There's this road that we're all on. Everybody's got a different one. Yeah. And we intersect and walk, on each other's paths for a minute. We get to accompany each other. But ultimately, all of us has to take our steps. And I think that, I don't know about you, when I go for a walk by myself, about 30 seconds into the walk, I'm like, am I home yet? I don't like this. But when I walk with somebody else, I'm like, oh, are we into 3 miles? I didn't even realize. And so that is the joy of just being with other people. Yeah. So, and my personality is introverted, but at the same time, I'm extremely talkative, so I'm like, I got so much to say because I did so much thinking about that. So to have an opportunity to be able to go ahead and put it out there for somebody who actually cares is so meaningful. And I think that there's so many people walking through life thinking that nobody cares what they have to say. Yeah. And I just can't even imagine the sadness and the depression of just sort of floating through. So, I hope, my hope and my prayer for anybody listening to this is that you would know that, the world needs you and the world needs your voice, and everything that you've gone through, it does have meaning and it has contributed to who you are. And I think that, us identifying everything that we've learned and then going out there and using it to try to help other people, that's really what it's all about. Yeah. So, I think there's a lot of squelching of that voices within ourselves. Other people will do it to us. I don't know about you, but I don't know if your mom's, I can almost hear your mom's voice a little bit in your book. I don't have a Jimmy. I have a Richie.
I see. That's great.
It's my
That's
brother
great.
that my mom just completely and totally gave every bit of affection and warmth and love to him. And there was a lot of responsibilities heaped on me. Nicole and I were older. So it was like, this, you're supposed to do the chores and take care of things and be, this is who you're supposed to be. And we all just kind of are supposed to dote on Richie. But I'll hear her voice sometimes in my head. It's not her voice anymore. She's not saying it, but somebody is, and it sounds like her voice. And it's saying, shut up. Nobody wants to hear you. Yeah. And I'm like, or they're going to think you're crazy. Yeah. They're going to think you're annoying. And it's not her. And I'll tell you what, she never actually said those things. But that's the authority figure in my life that I felt closest to, finding a way to try to keep me quiet. Yeah. And I have to stop that and recognize it really isn't her. It's just how I felt as a child. And my inner child, I need to be the mother to her that she didn't have, and just to go, I want to hear what you have to say. Yeah. It means something to me. Yeah. I hope that you know that and that you live in that light and that you move forward in a way that helps other people to live in that light too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautifully said. And it really is about knowing that we matter. And before we go into our next part, just everybody just to think about if anything that we say or someone else says something and it's a threat to you, it's a threat to what you already know. You could just go to a different church service, and the fact that they do different songs all of a sudden becomes a threat because it's just not what you know. Just to pause and to see why it's a threat, see what the concern is about thinking of something differently or someone else thinking and living differently. It's just to pause and to find out the voice you're listening to in your head. Is it authentic? Is it somebody else's voice that you now are hearing as your own that now actually won't let you be who God's called you to be? Mm-hmm. I think all of us struggle with that. Mm-hmm. Well, I thank you so much. I want to put you in the hot seat real quick.
Sure.
I'm going to ask you just real simple, kind of fun questions, and we'll just go through this little rapid fire hot seat for you. All right? Okay. All right. So I'll give you a word and tell me when you hear this word, what's the first word that comes to mind for you. All right? Okay. Here's the word. Taco.
Salad.
Salad. Taco salad. Great. What are you reading right now?
Oh, The Body Keeps the Score.
Oh, yeah. Great book. Excellent book. Very good. Do you think you would do well in prison?
Yes.
Why? What is it about you to make you do well in prison?
Well, I didn't talk about this, but I have a lot of incarcerated pen pals. So they share a lot with me.
Is that how you met your husband?
What was that?
Is that how you met your husband?
No, but actually, okay, so I'll make this story quick, even though you have the rapid fire. My husband had a friend who was incarcerated. Mm-hmm. It was somebody that he worked with, and this person was incarcerated for a horrible crime. Mm-hmm. And we thought he was innocent and, was kind of railroaded. And I ended up writing to him to hear a little bit more because I was fascinated by what happened to him. And, mm-hmm. He's a Black man. And I just, I had read the new Jim Crow, and I wanted to understand about, a little bit more about what has been endured within the Black community as far as our law enforcement mm-hmm. is concerned. And to know somebody personally that was going through it. And he connected me with, he was very forthcoming. It was a, great friendship, pen palship, but he connected me with one of his female friends who was in the women's prison, and she and I exchanged letters, and she was so encouraged by my letters that she gave my address. She asked me if it was okay to give my address to other inmates that were facing discouragement. And I had like 8 letters in 1 week, from different women who were all telling me, their story and what they'd been through and what they did, and so I definitely developed just an appreciation for the fact that we are not the worst thing that we ever did. Mm-hmm. It's so true. And that a lot of the people who are in prison are there because they did something when they were under the influence that they would mm-hmm. never have done. Yeah. And just to acknowledge that. So there's this part of me that's like, because I have all these pen pals that has imagined, what if I was with them? What if I was within that community? And the sadness that they feel, I think that I would thrive with another group of women, and I would really enjoy try to be an encouragement to them. And I'm sure with their life story, they would be an encouragement to me too, because people are just people. So.
That's amazing. One thing led to you having a natural ministry to be there for people. That's really cool. I like that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you play Wordle?
No.
What? Girl.
So this is what happened. I would be amazing at Wordle. I don't know what it is. And let me tell you why.
I don't know what it is, but I'll be amazing at it because I'm an 8.
I don't know if this is the case, but I destroy everybody I play in Scrabble. So if it has anything to do with that, I would be okay. Like people won't play with me anymore because I'm pretty good. So anyways, what happened to me was around Christmas time, a pop-up memory on my Facebook page came, 4-year-old photo of my children in the bathtub. 4 little boys sitting in the tub. There's no genitals exposed.
Right.
Okay. I get a little note from Facebook team saying, your account has been flagged for sexual imagery of children.
Oh my gosh.
And you've got 30 days to say that this didn't happen. So I did what they wanted me to do and appealed it. And they deactivated my account. Wow. And so when Wordle came to be, I was not on any social media. For 6 weeks, I was not at all like, and so all of a sudden I'm seeing all this every day. It's like Wordle. Everybody's upset because they're like, I didn't get it. And like other people are like, I'm so smart. And I'm like, I would probably be amazing at that, but I don't know what it is. And I've chosen not to know, Kim. I've chosen.
I got you. Okay. I'm not going to mess with you. Your addictive brain. I'm not going to mess. Not going any further with it. But okay, last question. Last question. If you had to run for office, which position would you run for?
Vice president.
Yeah.
I'm a great support person. Like, I'm great. Like, I am the cheerleader for the champion. I love the ideas. I get very, very insecure at the tippy tip top.
Right.
Like, I just start to feel like an immense pressure weighing on me that I'm like going to make a bad decision and hurt people. But I really want a lot of influence.
Yeah, that's good. I love that balance. You'd be the VP. All right. Well, that is amazing. If our people want to find you or get in touch with Ezer Rising, throw out there a little bit of how they would be able to follow you or follow your company, your nonprofit.
Well, okay. So you just find us EZERRISING is Ezer Rising. And that is, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, always being snarky. We are on Pinterest, and I'm trying to think. So our website is under construction right now, but it should be up and running. It might even be up and running by the time this podcast airs. So it's ezerrising.org.
Yeah.
So we've got 6 writers right now, but we're looking for more people, more voices. We're definitely looking for people who are within the LGBTQ community or people of color. Right now, with where our country has been, we have found that those who are kind of within those marginalized communities are very weary. You know, they just don't, I mean, it's putting themselves out there is just very draining. And we're trying to be cognizant of that and to try to be cheerleaders for them and be encouragers. But at the same time, we can't keep the trolls from coming in and saying obnoxious things. And that can be very draining. So we ask that our staff content creators come on, and they would come with us for a year. And they get 1 day a week. That's their day. They have access to all the, the places they can go. They can post to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of it. I think we have a TikTok too, but I'm not sure. And they get to just be themselves in those places and have people respond to them. So if that's something, any listeners are out there, you feel like you've got a unique voice, you've got something to say, if you like some of the things that I've said, that's sort of, those are the conversations that we have. There are some deal breakers, that we don't really want. Certain mindsets, complementarianism, we're not really interested in people who are sort of pro male headship or patriarchy or anything like that. But for the most part, we're pretty open, as long as it has to do with women and equality, and just the intersection of people from the margins being able to have a voice that is front and center.
Yeah, that's right. That's so good. Well, thank you for your time, your expertise, your compassion, all of it, the ability to challenge others in a loving way. Thank you for all that. And to all our listeners, I have no doubt that today you've heard something that's helped you reconnect to who you actually are. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Flip Your Lid with Kim Honeycutt. Please subscribe, rate, and share. You can find Kim on Facebook or Instagram at KBHoneycutt. To get an autographed copy of Kim's book, visit butyourmotherlovesyou.com. Remember, no matter what, treat yourself well today.